fiberglass repairs on a 1/3 scale Supercub. Now what happened here is hanger rash, and the first step was to take the cowling off and clean it as much as possible and every orifice as possible, because grease will come out of everywhere and hurt your paint, hurt your fiberglass, hurt your resin epoxy. And of course we only use Zap products because they're the only thing worth really using on this type of finish work. And let's see how it goes. This is cracked all the way up through here, and I saw a little hairline fracture there, and that's really about it for damage. So next step is going to be to flake off as much of this stuff as possible. And I'm going to use a little 320 to back that down a little bit. Now be careful, you don't want to go past your body lines or your fiberglass lines, because then you'll be repainting the whole thing. And this, you don't have to repaint the whole thing, so we're going to basically just try to keep it down to this cowl ring being repainted from this portion forward, whole thing. Let's sand it down, see if you can't smooth out the edges a little bit. Now the good news is this didn't really hurt the fiberglass appearance. It moved a little bit, popped back out, so basically mostly it's just paint damage. And this is why it was so important to clean it real well, because you see how my hands are holding through to the back side of things. And when that happens, you get grease on your fingers. What's the next thing you touch? Right there. And then you're pretty much boned before you can even get started. But we've cleaned this one real good. It had actually been off the airplane several times after this incident. And this is getting ready for 12 o'clock high coming up. And Lakeland, Florida. Trentino does a good job putting on some pretty nice shows, and the place we fly is, if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing. Okay, so that's good enough for now. Just blend it back, make sure it's not cracking anymore. Don't want to get through the fiberglass. That's definite. Next step is going to be to give a light sanding in that same location inside the cowling, because that's where you're going to lay all your stress relieving fiberglass to take up the slack. And if there would have been any cracks, like say in any of these angles, what you would have wanted to do with those is figure out a way to grind them back and replace the piece from behind and build it back up, because once you have a crack, it's not going to go away. It will travel. It's worse than metal, this fiberglass. It'll travel really far. I've seen cowlings come apart in the air simply because of hairline fractures that you probably couldn't see unless you really did a very good inspection. Okay, so inside. Make sure you sand past where you're going to put your patch. Otherwise, if you go over it, the ends will start to crack. That'll be the location that it severs itself, and that'll be the first traveling crack. Resulting in deconstructive rekitting. Now, this is just a scuff pad. I'm not sure which one it was, maybe a 500. I really don't know. Or 5,000, I'm sorry. It's probably worn down to a lot less than that. So if I did go over onto this paneling, no big deal. When I'm done, after I put all these, mask this out and put new paint on there, all I'd have to do is go back and either give it a really good wax, or you could clear coat over it, depending upon how bad your mistake is. But this one's pretty good. Okay, let's mix up a little epoxy. Shop's kind of a mess. We had a hurricane last night. And grab some fiberglass. Got to use really sharp scissors for fiberglass. Fiberglass is a pain in the butt sometimes to work with. Now I'm using really like 1/4 ounce, real thin stuff. But that's what we have. And that'll be strong. I'm going to put 2 layers on it. Mix up some Z-epoxy on my oatmeal cream pie gimmick. Come on. This is the last of this particular batch. Finally, here it comes. Oh, watch out, because I was in the splash zone. Now you can either do this with cups by weight, you know, you can be very sophisticated about it. I use so much of this stuff that I pretty much just do it automatically now. The B part goes really, really slow. Oh yeah, use gloves. Always use gloves. Don't ever touch this stuff without gloves. Now I'm gonna go mess with it without gloves. I said this is a way to do it. I didn't say it was the right way. Okay. Just gonna lay a little bit down inside there. For the inside for a start. And if you need it thinner, you can mix a little, very small amount of rubbing alcohol with it. Second layer. It doesn't really matter how it looks inside there, but just keep in mind that some airplanes, like this airplane, it's pretty easy to see down in these cracks if you get to looking. And these Top Gun judges, they get to looking. So if you're gonna bring it to an event where it absolutely has to be perfect, well then this actually does matter. But if this is just your fun Sunday flyer, which is both for me, this plane's flown at Top Gun, Monster Planes, 12 o'clock high, just about every other local event in the Florida region. But if it matters for your judging, you definitely do want to do it. I've had the pleasure of working with the Currys, and they were able to teach me some of the tricks of where they look for judgment errors. Okay, that's all in there. You can see it overlays a little bit to the outside, not a big deal. And it goes up around the edge where it's supposed to. Now I'm just going to put a little coat on the top. This is 30 minutes, got plenty of time. It's important that you go over the edge, but not too much, because everything you put over the edge is going to need to be sanded down. Pretty much anything that goes over will not be there when you're done. That's good. Okay. That's off here. And that's it for now. The next step, of course after this dries very good, is to trim it. And it's simple to trim. You can pretty much just take sandpaper and run your sandpaper very slowly like this, or back and forth, usually back and forth with your line, and that'll cut all the fiberglass directly off perfectly and leave it only where it needs to be. This is looking good. So, next step, sand this down, take that off, get you some primer, and I'm not sure if we're going to show that as a step 2 or not, but I'm going to mask right there, and then I'm going to prime just this spot here after all the sanding's done, and that'll show me whether it's blended in or not, and we can go from there to decide whether it needs more sanding, more coats of primer. Primer I use is pretty good, so probably not. So we'll at least put a video up for the second part, whether it's showing how it came out or whether it's showing some more of the process.